Here we go. History in the making. Green.
It's time to knock 4 out of the Cup Series playoffs. Will anybody climb back into the top 12? Hi, this is Brett McMillan. You listen to the Pit Reporters. With me this week, Adam Alexander from the CW and Ellen Cavana from PRN and TNT.
Welcome to the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network. And now, here's your host, Brett McMillan.
And glad to have Adam and Alan here. Man, we got a lot to talk about coming up this week. Bristol looming, but Gateway in the rearview mirror, Adam. And man, Denny Hamlin just keeps rolling along. He thought he could get to 60 by the end of the year. Not the age 60,
Right, yeah.
but the 60 wins by the end of the year. And he's at 59 now, and he clinched himself a spot in the round of 12.
There are certain off-track news items that might make him feel like he's 60 at the end of the year.
True.
But I got to tell you, it's remarkable to me, and we had a couple of those wins over the summer when we were at the track, and not really that changes anything when you're there and you're a part of it, but you're just around those guys a little more, and I think you get a better feel and you study it a little closer, as you guys know, when you're broadcasting the races. And to be up front and to watch that team execute and to be in the garage and to talk to Chris Gale and just see where the mindset is, you just get such a good feel and understanding for who they are and what they are and how they go about their business. And we don't have a rooting interest. As you know, in our business, it's like we just root for storylines. So it's not like I sit at home on Sundays now with my Denny Hamlin T-shirt on and root for Denny, but I am a believer that Denny is really good for the sport. And I love the antagonist role that he plays. And I have friends that are like, I can't stand Denny Hamlin. And I'm like, it's just part of his deal. He's not that bad. And then you hear his reflection on the wins and how much longer he's going to race and where everything fits in and what it means to him and how he continues to try and get better. He's dangerous right now. And to be delivering at the level he's delivering at and winning with this consistency this late in his career is just so impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, you need good guys and you need bad guys. I mean, that's the hallmark, I think, of every sport, Alan. I mean, you got to have the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox and teams like that where people love to hate them, but they tune in every week and tell you how much they hate them.
Look, no one boos losers, right? I mean, you boo a guy when he's winning too much or getting checkered flags. That's what Denny Hamlin's doing. That's what makes it so good, is when you have that somewhat successful and antagonizer, right? Get on the bandwagon or get run over. And he's doing that now, doing it humbly, but doing it with checkered flags. And you're going to have an opinion on that. All that is great for storylines, like Adam was saying. And what Denny's doing at his age, 44, nearly 45, all the statistics say this is when you fall off and fall down the hill in terms of performance, especially as the sport gets younger in this Gen 7 era. And he is doing it better than ever, doing it calmly, adapting, doing this all with a new crew chief, right? Remember, there were so many questions going into this season. How would he adapt to this so late in his career in terms of the relationship with a new crew chief? He wasn't exactly happy about it. I remember that announcement day. It was like caught everybody off guard, including Denny Hamlin. And yet he's been open to it and let that process play out. And it's turned into victories and a real shot at a championship the way the Toyotas are running right now.
I mean, you look at it, he's got 5 wins now, Adam. More than anybody else in the series. The only guy that's got 4 wins is Shane Van Gisbergen, who nobody thought he would have 4 wins this year. But Hamlin, 5 wins on the year, 1 short of 60, which he wanted to get to by the end of his career. Well, that got to be a shoo-in at this point in time.
Well, and you think about, if you look at the tracks where he's won and the versatility, the statement of versatility that makes about his ability to drive. And Alan touched on some of the historical figures, and not just on where he is in his career as far as age, but the fact that he's been doing it and having this success over such a long period of time. And, this whole debate happens about, does Denny need to win a championship? And I've never subscribed to that theory that you have to win a championship to be one of the best. But him being at 59 and you just believe conventional wisdom would say he'll get to 60 and beyond. Where does he rank if he doesn't get a championship? And I started looking at some drivers that we hold in such high regard that have not only won a championship, but maybe have won multiple championships, but have not won near as many races that Denny Hamlin has. And it's just, gosh, I don't know what's more impressive about his career and how you rank the championship versus all the wins. But he is doing some things that, that we haven't seen in quite some time. And it makes you curious, is anyone else ever going to get to 60? Because, the longevity just hadn't been there for many guys in recent years.
Well, hey, that's a great question because I hadn't stopped to look back to see who's next on the list. But, nobody else. I mean, Kyle Busch is over 60.
Right.
But, nobody else who's active, I don't think, is is in the 50 range at this point in time.
Logano is at 37. And I think
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. You can double check me on that. I think Logano's at 37. And obviously he's got 3 championships. And I'm not trying to create a debate on here or steal Alan's time to follow up on Denny Hamlin. But, where do you – 3 championships is unbelievable. And gosh, you got to celebrate it at such a high level. But 37 wins, and how much longer does he race, and where does Joey get on the all-time wins list in comparison to the 60 that Denny could put up? So, yeah, it's pretty impressive what he's doing, and it's neat. And the other thing I would say is look who he's competed against, Alan. I mean, he's raced against elite drivers since day one, some of the best.
Alan?
Oh, yeah, just how long his career has been. I think I saw a stat. He's now won 5 different races with 5 different crew chiefs. I mean, the ability to do that in all the generations of car. And we heard something interesting from Chase Briscoe. After his win, he was doing the rounds, and he made a comment that, the 19 hadn't done any sim testing in 3 years. Are you kidding me? When they had Martin Truex Jr., that the kind of the sign of a veteran who wasn't adapting, right, to this new era, this new level of technology. Denny Hamlin, we hear his work ethic has only gotten better and better and better as each year has gone by in his career. So the fact that he is able to adapt to this new generation, this new way of success where you don't have the practice time, you have to get in the simulator, you have to give him data. That's all contributing to his on-track performance. And you could rest on your laurels. Maybe it is the championship he's chasing, but the fact that he is still elevating that 11 team and elevating his whole career to being the best in NASCAR right now in terms of sheer wins and checkered flags, you have to adapt and keep going. And at 44, he's still doing that. That's what's most impressive to me.
Well, he did say in his post-race press conference at Gateway that he kind of hinted that there is a deadline now.
Yeah, 2 more years, basically.
Yeah. So
good perspective, though.
But
he's got 70 more races, he said.
So that gets him through 2027. So this is his last. Basically, he's saying, this is my last contract. So he has set a deadline. And, you made the point, Adam, that I don't love him or hate him, he's good for the sport. Because, as I said at the top, you need a guy who doesn't mind being hated. I mean, Kyle Busch was that guy. Darrell Waltrip was that guy that doesn't mind getting booed. I'll never forget the day Darrell Waltrip during driver introductions stood there and say, "Boo if you love DW." And the crowd didn't know what to do.
That's right. But, the one thing I would say that I don't like about Denny Hamlin right now is we don't have the other side of the rivalry. We've got Denny Hamlin. He checks every box to be on one side. We need the other side. And Denny doesn't have that right now. And maybe the best candidate, and we've seen them go toe-to-toe multiple times and not always be in agreement, even though they're friends. And to me, that would be Kyle Larson. And there was a time over the summer, I feel like I was doing one of the Cup races, and I made the comment, they were running 1-2 and going at it, and I made the comment how I crave that, and I want to see that. And a fan hit me on social media and said, "You're just trying to drum up business that doesn't exist." And I'm like, no, this is the race fan in me coming out saying, I want to see 2 capable superstars, 2 of the most talented guys out here that can get it done at the highest level, going toe-to-toe and not always agreeing. They set every guideline you need to have a rivalry, and to me, we just don't have the other side of it for Denny right now, and I would love to see that develop because we're missing out on an opportunity to have the antagonist to Denny Hamlin to really create something to give fans an opportunity to tune in for.
So as we look at it and say, all right, he's saying 70 races left, 2 more years. Does he reconsider, or is he serious about that, Alan?
But I take him for his word that he's very serious about it. I mean, he very thought out. That's what you appreciate about Denny as well, is that he gives thought out answers to questions. And the retirement question, the last contract, he's even moved his language a little bit to where, yeah, it was a maybe when he signed it just a few months ago, right? Now, over the weekend, it sounded like, yeah, no, I have 2 seasons left. And that's it. And he said he had a conversation with Kevin Harvick about it, about knowing that there's an end. When you know the end is there, it puts you in a better perspective on how to plan and how to appreciate each race and what you have to do in these next 2 years and 6 more races, 7, what we have left, for him to think out that far and know where the checkered flag of his career is. It gave him a really good perspective, and I loved the answer about it. So I take him for his word that full-time going for these championships, it's not going to get easier, right? So, and at some point you fall off a cliff talent-wise, age-wise, all that stuff. I like the perspective in knowing that there's an end point, and he can respect that.
The other thing I would say about that is that we can't lose sight of the loyalty factor. We live in a day and age, and we were talking college sports before we came on the air, the NIL, here today, gone tomorrow, chase a buck, whatever. And I'm not saying the guy hasn't been well taken care of at Joe Gibbs Racing, but it's easy to see greener pastures and to let your ego get in the way and say, I'm going to be better off somewhere else. It hasn't always been easy for Denny, and they have gone through changes over there, but he stayed loyal to Joe Gibbs Racing, and that in this
and vice
era,
versa.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a two-way street. But I that impresses me, and that means something to me, and I think it makes a statement about the individual, and that's not to knock anybody who's changed teams. It's business, and I get that. But you got to celebrate it when someone like Denny is willing to stay in the same spot his entire career, and it appears now that that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right, I did look it up while we were talking. The driver with the most active wins after Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin right now is Joey Logano with 37. Keselowski's got 36, and Kyle Larson has 32.
There you go.
So, I mean, yeah. So you're talking about another driver's not even at 40 at this point.
And I would say win frequency, you started to see Joey maybe slow down a little bit, right, in recent years. Larson is someone that you feel like could just get on a heater and put together 5, 6, 7 in a short period of time and elevate that number very quickly. But I would also say that 60, 25 more wins to get to where Denny Hamlin is, that is a big amount of production in a short period of time.
Yeah. Then you think about, at one point we were wondering if Kyle Busch could get to Jimmy Johnson territory at 83,
yeah.
at Jeff Gordon territory at 93. No, I
you just never know what's going to happen, right?
We got Connor Zillage coming up
on a rocket ship, and then it falls off. Even the math with Kyle Larson, you just said that's 5 more seasons, at least, of 5 wins apiece. That's ridiculous, right? It sounds ridiculous. It puts into perspective just how many wins 60 is right now and how much Kyle Larson has to go despite being one of the best in the world.
We've seen a bunch of mistakes on pit road in the first 2 races of the Cup Series playoffs. One team has made a wholesale change in a Hail Mary attempt to stay alive in the playoffs. We'll talk about that when we return.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 5-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
It's New Hampshire.
Start your engine! Green flag is in the air, and Chase Elliott gets a quick jump on the outside.
Two cars together. Chase Elliott is involved. He spins. He tangled with the car of Joey Logano.
In near darkness on a damp racetrack, Christopher Bell is going to win the USA Today 301.
It's the NASCAR Cup Series 301 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Sunday, September 21st at 1 o'clock Eastern on PRN.
Walking Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us saying, we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Alan Cavana from PRN and TNT, and Adam Alexander from the CW, and let's see, Prime and TNT, and any place else you're appearing these days?
That's it. That's good for now.
So I think we got it all taken care of. I tell you, it has been interesting to watch in the first two rounds, the first two races of the playoffs, Alan, the mistakes we've seen on pit road. There usually seems to be one race, maybe two races during the course of the playoffs where we just see a mass of these mistakes. We've seen it now twice in two races at the start of these playoffs. And one of the worst defenders has been the 48 team of Alex Bowman. And Rick Hendrick has seen enough. He is taking the 77. They lease out, they supply pit crews for the 77 team, the 71 team, all those at Spire Motorsports. And he has taken the 77 crew and says, we're bringing them back in-house, and they are going to be pitting the 48 car this week. That's a pretty desperate move. Of course, Bowman right now is sitting 15th in the point standings, 35 points below the cut line. So he's almost in a win or your else situation right now, isn't he?
Yeah, they're in a desperate situation. You have to make moves like this. The numbers talk. If the 77 crew is doing better right now than the 48, you have to make that move because they're down to one shot and one shot only, and you can't risk it. And these are decisions that have to be made in the playoffs. They're tough decisions, but we saw you can't excuse what we're seeing. I mean, it looked like, I hate to say the Three Stooges, but when that first hose wasn't connected and everyone's looking around like, what's going on? Like, how do you make that mistake in that moment? And of course, it's the worst time of the year, the worst time of the season to have that happen, but it did. And then you wonder, why didn't they pick up the performance the next week? You had to have the memory of a goldfish, and then the performance wasn't there. A lot of things weren't there. I start feeling bad for Alex Bowman. At some point, I know it's a team sport. I know everyone contributes. But when you think back to last year, guys, and the weight issue that eliminated him from the playoffs, that's not on Alex Bowman. When you think about what happened on pit road and the hose, that's not on Alex Bowman. Last week, I don't know how much more he could have done with the car that was given to him and the performance in the pits. You start wondering, man, you feel bad for the driver at this point. That's what I'm saying here. You have to make a change. They're in that Hail Mary spot.
The other thing I would add here in just the curiosity of what creates all these issues that we seem to find year in and year out in the opening round of the playoffs in particular. It's just like we have a breakout of issues that we haven't seen. And obviously these teams are going through the same level of preparation. And, I mean, no one's making mistakes on purpose. Is it the pressure of the playoffs? Is it just trying too hard to take the next step and then going across the line and having these errors? I just don't know where the analysis is that gives you the answers you need to understand why the mistakes happen, but it seems to happen every year. And I heard a great interview recently with Joe Gibbs, and they were talking about this very thing, the issues on pit road. And he talked about the level of preparation. And, it's so difficult because these teams and the amount of pressure that they feel and the difference that they make, and one miscue, and it can be the end of it. And now here we are with a couple of weeks in a row where they fought problems, and Alex Bowman finds himself on the outside looking in and in a must-win situation at Bristol. There's no doubt about that.
The irony is, and we've seen this over the last decade or so, Alan, is that these pit crews are now staffed with former college athletes, former professional athletes from other sports, because they're used to being in pressure situations. And the belief is that they can handle it better because of their background. And yet we're seeing these teams in the highest pressure situations now start to make these bobbles. And that's what I think is throwing everybody a curve, because that's supposed to be when these guys are at their best.
Absolutely. And look, the hay is in the barn in terms of we just had 26 races, right? You're not going to get that much better. You're not going to improve on fundamentals. You've been doing that. You've been honing your skills. You've been doing the workouts. You've been doing the reps. This is where you have to shine. And if anything, we've learned all you have to do is really hold serve, right? Just don't make a mistake. 1/10 faster. Okay, but it's so much mistake-free is better than 1/10 faster, I guess is what I'm getting at. And so I think the coaching, whatever, has to be hammered home, that just mistake-free, especially in this first round, is so much more important than being maybe one position faster. We'll worry about that in Phoenix, in Homestead next year. But mistake-free is so much more important in this first round. And we're seeing mistakes, but even little things like getting into your pit stall or a bunch of cars coming down pit road and being in different boxes at the same time, or leaving at different times when you should be. The communication there, everything gets enhanced, every little mistake, especially in the playoffs, but everyone has to be holding serve right now in terms of doing what got you there. You push too hard and you see what happens.
Well, we often say it's easier to pass on pit road than it is to pass on the track in a lot of situations, Adam. And I think Allo makes a great point. You're better off being a half a second slower than you are making a major mistake and having to pull into somebody else's pit stall a little further down pit road to have a wheel tighten.
But I would say this too, and this reflects back a little bit to the Joe Gibbs interview that I referenced, and that is it's easy in hindsight to say just slow down, but where is it in you as a competitive person to say, I'm going to go at 80% or I'm going to go at 90% when you've been executing at 100% all season long and you haven't had issues? And sometimes, as we know as competitors in anything or just in anything that we do, when you dial it back and you change the rhythm, that's when you create the mistakes because the choreography is a little different. So it's something that is a head scratcher. It's hard to figure out why it happens on an annual basis. And I feel like every year there's teams that pay the price for it. The one thing I would say, there's two levels of mistake. There's the issue that comes with, as we talk about, just going out and executing a live pit stop. There's also preparation mistakes that we've seen that are unacceptable. Those are the ones that you can't live with because you just didn't do all the things you need to do prior to the race to set yourself up for success. When you have issues on a live pit stop, that's just part of competitive sports. And, we'll see it Saturday, Sunday afternoon in football. We see it in basketball and all the other sports, and it's no different in NASCAR when you're talking about executing one of these pit stops.
I think that's one of the things we see with these night races and talking to guys like before the 600. It's a long day, and it's a long night. And that really taps into these guys, and that's where what you're talking about, the preparation and then understanding that you got to pace yourself to some extent over the course of the day and the evening because it's going to be a long time. When we come back, the Xfinity Series playoffs get to start at Bristol this week. Adam's seen every race so far this year, the Xfinity Series. There's a guy named Zilich that might just be a favorite. He's had a decent year. We'll talk about them when we come back.
I have a friend, about 50, had a bad accident and couldn't go back to work. If you're between the ages of 49 and 63 and can't go back to your job because of a physical or mental disability, Social Security could pay you as much as $3,800 a month. If you or a family member is unable to work because of a disability, call the Social Security Disability Helpline. Our team will give you a free case review and explain to you how much money you're entitled to, and you won't pay anything unless we get you benefits. See if you or a family member is entitled to close to $45,000 a year in Social Security disability funds. Remember, this is not something for people over the age of 65. If you're under 65 and can't work, call now.
800-731-1582. 800-731-1582. That's 800-731-1582.
Catch Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown with Charlie and Debbie here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Get your NASCAR fix with PRN's Garage Pass.
It's hard to just turn it around in 1 week, but I wouldn't be shocked if we did.
I don't think the results have been what we have hoped for or expected, but I think the potential in the cars and the speed has been pretty good.
You know, it's a big deal already, so that's a big positive for us. So I think now it's just about working together and getting better.
I think the Penske cars are still elite when it comes to plate racing.
Hi, I'm Mark Garrow, tracking the latest racing news every weekday.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
Sweepstakes fans, start your entries. Visit echopark.com/speedway to enter for a chance to win a Toyota Tundra plus a brand new Thor camper. Visit echopark.com/speedway now, and you can drive off a winner. Adam Alexander's here. Alec Gavana's here. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. This Connor Zilisch kid, kind of amazing. Has he clinched a spot in the second round yet, Adam?
That's right. He's in the championship four. It's the first time in the history of NASCAR they had playoff media day and they announced one driver that's already going to Phoenix. You know,
Kid is starting the playoffs with 64 points. Right now, the cut line is let's see. Carson Kvapil is just above the cut line. He's tied with Taylor Gray, who has 5 points. So he is 59 points ahead of the cut line, which is basically one race.
Yeah, it's just remarkable what this guy's done. And I think, just look at the numbers and you're impressed. But then you factor in what happened at Talladega. He has to miss a race because he broke his back. And then the whole situation at Watkins Glen where he wins, he celebrates, and he falls off the car and breaks his collarbone.
And by the way, you guys handled that so well. I thought you guys did a great job.
Well, thanks. That was just the most bizarre situation I've ever been in, I think, as a broadcaster, especially a Victory Lane situation. But he comes back, starts the race at Daytona. Parker Kligerman finishes it off, and he's won a couple of races since then. And Alan, the other thing we were talking about during the break is the number of races he's won at tracks that he had never seen before he shows up to practice. It's just crazy what he's been able to accomplish.
I feel like you guys are running out of things to talk about. It's like, going into a weekend, it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to Gateway. Maybe Connor will win because he's never been there before. Let's talk about some other contenders, right? And then he goes out and wins the race. And that makes it all the more impressive, Adam, because he hasn't been to some of these tracks, but he doesn't always have the best car either. So that shows you how good of a driver he is to both overcome, learn on the fly, but also sometimes winning with the slower car or not the best car at the end of the race, but still getting it done. I mean, that's just the talk and the signs of just such a talent and that what he's been able to do. And now we'll see what he does in his first playoff system, right? Does he feel that pressure? I'm sure he got those questions during media day. You can't anticipate something. You can anticipate, I guess, but you don't know until you're in there. Does the playoff pressure get to him? Any of that elimination stuff. But when you have a 59-point buffer, he's got to make it through 3 races with a 59-point buffer. I think he'll be okay. You never know, but this is something new. But every challenge he's faced so far, he comes away with a checkered flag. Not just a good performance, a checkered flag. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah, and keep in mind, he got the win for Daytona, but he didn't get the points.
Right.
So that would have been
that's
69. Yeah, that's another 5 he didn't get because Kligerman. Yeah, Kligerman wins the race. He gets credit for the win. Zilisch does because he started the car, but he doesn't get the playoff points to go with it.
But here's the other thing I would say: he seems to be unbeatable at road courses, especially when SVG's not in. As we know, Shane Van Gisbergen cannot run any of the playoff races. So I look at the elimination race in round 1, and that being the Roval. And you talk about his situation in the points, and who knows what will play out this weekend at Bristol, or in a couple of weeks' time, race 2 at Kansas. But then you look at the Roval, he's plus 59, and there's a huge opportunity for him to go in and add even more points to his advantage when we get to the round of 8. The other thing I would say, he's raced at Bristol quite a bit. And the only time he didn't qualify on the pole at Bristol, whether it be ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity earlier this year, is when he was second to Kyle Larson in the spring. So you have to believe Friday night he's going to start on the pole, which introduces the opportunity to go out and win a stage and get another playoff point. So, I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but I say there's no way the guy's not in the round of 8, and it's really unimaginable to think that he won't be in the championship 4.
All right, well, let's kind of spin it a little bit, since we all expected to be in the championship 4. But that's the bizarre part about this playoff setup, is it is one race for the championship. So who are the guys he needs to worry about, Alan? I mean, Justin Allgaier is his teammate. He's second. He's got 10 stage wins this year. He's got 35 points. Sam Mayer is a guy who's only got 1 win this year. It came kind of late in the regular season, but he's been running for the Haas factory team. He's kind of that quiet Ford guy that's been hanging in there, and he's sitting there third in points. He's had himself a pretty good year, and it's been pretty quiet.
And he's shown us he can get checkered flags. And in the playoff system, that is the ultimate way to advance, right? I mean, when you show us you can get it done and get those checkered flags, and he's had the speed. I like Sam Mayer as a potential threat. Justin Allgaier, you group him with Phoenix and how good he is there and that he's done it before. Certainly a threat. My question is the RCR cars, where they were a threat for so long. We know they have speed. We know that they'll dominate the super speedways. What else can they do? Because I just haven't seen the same laps. Look, it's hard when Connor Zilic is winning everything and leading all the laps, right? The JRM cars have just done it all this year. Can anyone step up in these last few races? My question is for RCR. I love Sam Mayer, Justin Allgaier. What can RCR do potentially, because you're running out of opponents for Connor Zilic after that?
I mean, Austin Hill is kind of, we kind of forget about him because he's sitting there, 12th in the standings, the last guy in the standings, but he's also got himself 3 wins. He's down there because he had the suspension and lost all his points. Because of that, he's got 3 wins. He's got 6 stage wins, so he would have 21 playoff points. It would be sitting in third right now. Is he a threat to win the championship?
I feel for him, he's got a couple of things going for him, talking about Austin Hill, and that is that even though Bristol has not been a good track for him, I mean, just unbelievable. I don't think he's ever qualified in the top 15, which is just remarkable. If they get through this weekend, he's been really good at Kansas, good on the 1.5 miles. And then he's been a really good road racer. So the Roval could be a place that he could do some damage and introduce himself to a chance to advance. And even though all those points were taken away, he enters the playoffs only 5 below the cut line, so he's very much in the game. If you get him to the second round, he told me at Media Day, Las Vegas, the opening race in the round of 8 is his best track. He really feels good about that intermediate. And when I say best track, I mean of the intermediates. And then, you got Talladega. And I don't think anyone, regardless of how good you are in the draft, plans on getting it done there. But we know that he's the best there is and the all-time wins leader in the draft in the Xfinity Series, and Martinsville, where he won earlier this year. So a case is there to be made for Austin Hill. The one name I've not heard yet that I think could be a player is Brandon Jones. And Brandon, very quiet. I mean, his personality is quiet. His performance on track is quiet. But just look at the tracks that we're going to. He's won at Kansas. He's won at Martinsville. He's got a great resume at Bristol. The Roval, not a great road racer. Who knows about Talladega? He's won at Martinsville. And Phoenix is a place where he is really good. I don't think there's any doubt the favorite is Zilic, and number 2 is the reigning champ Allgaier, in particular because of how good he is at Phoenix. But Brandon Jones is someone that's just quietly out there that could sneak in and make some noise for Joe Gibbs Racing, I believe.
Got any other names to throw out there, Alan?
I don't. I do. I wonder about the JGR cars, and just in the Xfinity Series, just haven't seen that level of performance. It seems like JRM has taken that mantle. My question is Connor Zilic and when and if he has to be aggressive. I believe that his racing with Shane Van Gisbergen and losing a few of those battles earlier in the season taught him a lot, because at some point in this championship fight, even with his big lead, maybe it's in Phoenix, maybe it's in Martinsville, but at some point, the rest of the field is going to get really aggressive with him, this young driver who hasn't been in this playoff system before. How aggressive will he be back? Yes, he might have the fastest car. Maybe no one can catch him, but if they do, drivers like Sam Mayer, others will be aggressive. Austin Hill, they're going to be super aggressive. How aggressive will Connor Zilisch be back if he has to be? That's my only question. That's the only way to beat him.
When we come back, what's going on for 2026? Well, we got a couple things locked in. We'll talk to those guys about what they think. There's going to be some seats filled and a manufacturer change. Stay with us.
Make your plans now to stay at the South Point Hotel Casino and Spa when NASCAR returns to Las Vegas. They have great race ticket and room packages for you to choose from. The South Point also features a wide variety of excellent dining options at 11 different restaurants. Or you can enjoy the 16-screen movie complex and visit the 64-lane bowling center. Visit SouthPointCasino.com and make your reservations today. Stay where the racers stay at the South Point Hotel Casino and Spa.
Hey, this is Michael Walter for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of the inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000. And car for car, truck for truck, Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 100,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure everyone drives away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Lenny Batycki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is Doug Rice at PRN. Join me every Monday night for another great episode of Fast Talk.
I watched the race on TV, and they wanted to give him the mantle of greatest of all time, and he's won 4 races in a row. And so I can't do that yet. But I do think what we're watching is a guy who's changing the sport. He's changing the way the other drivers approach road racing. He's making them study. He's making them up their game.
That's Fast Talk right here on the Performance Racing Network.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Alan Cavanna of the, TNT and also PRN. And Adam Alexander's here from the CW. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. You know, we were talking earlier about some of the things going on for next year, Alan. And, you know, we know Daniel Suarez is a guy without a ride that we know of. He seems pretty calm about it. So I almost wonder if he knows what he's got going on, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of availability in the Cup Series. Matter of fact, we don't know of any openings officially in the Cup Series next year. What are you hearing?
Well, I can only hear what my journalist friends are reporting. Jordan Bianchi, Bob Pockrass, always on top of those things. And you're right, your silly season 2026, you're just not hearing much right now because it doesn't seem like there are many teams that are looking, many drivers that are free agents. Denny Hamlin got his deal done. Ricky Stenhouse had some questions a few weeks ago. He seemed to, lock down that he'll be back with Hayek. If you read reporting from The Athletic and other sources, it does seem like possibly maybe a question over at Spire Motorsports, the future of Justin Haley. Again, these are just reports that are out there that I'm reading as well. Could Daniel Suarez be a candidate for that ride should it open? Those are things we have to see. Of course, you'd want a former winner, a Cup driver to replace it and be in that spot. It seems like that would be a great decision. But we don't know what's happening right there. But after that, it's like, where are any of these open seats coming from? We're just not hearing that right now. It just seems like an off year in terms of silly season.
And Adam, I don't want to get into the whole lawsuit thing, but it seems like some of this stuff could be hinging on that. in addition to what Alan was talking about.
Well, there's been talk about, you mentioned the lawsuit, and I don't want to get into it either, but there were some residual impacts of that depending on how the ruling goes and where the charters land and all that stuff. And evidently, based on what I've read, and maybe it's out there as fact, I don't know exactly what all is a report versus what's been put on black and white, and we know for sure, but that Tyler Reddick has a clause in his contract that would indicate he needs to run for a chartered team. And if 2311 didn't have a charter, then that would open the door for him to move on and get out of his deal. And as we know, he's someone that would be very coveted, and that's another rumor that's out there as something that could change the landscape on where everyone is in 2026. It certainly feels right now like there's going to be a lot of status quo, and that makes you even more curious about where does Daniel Suarez end up? And is it back in the Xfinity Series where he won a championship in 2016 before eventually rebounding and going to NASCAR's top level when the right opportunity comes along? So more questions than answers right now, more rumors than fact for sure. And I would guess the next couple of months as we wrap the season and get into the offseason, we'll learn exactly for sure where everybody's going to be ride-wise for the Daytona 500.
Well, and Alan, we've seen Legacy Motor Club really improve over the last couple of months and take huge steps forward. And Jimmy Johnson's made it pretty clear they would love to add another team, but I think they'd like to get a charter to do it.
Yeah, and we know they're in some sort of litigation as well. A lot of courtroom talk in NASCAR this year. That might be the silliest of all seasons, maybe the off season and courtroom drama. That'll be the silliest season, but it's a reality. And I know it's in the weeds and we don't know what's going to happen, but it could fundamentally change a lot of teams. You know what I mean? If some of these teams don't want to come back, if they don't have charters, if drivers don't want to be with an unchartered team, maybe money can make the difference, what have you. Does Legacy get a third charter? What team is that associated with? Rick Ware Racing, all this stuff. I mean, there are some odd dominoes that will fall and maybe be determined by lawyers, right? And not just contracts and talent and who's holding the steering wheel and all this weird stuff. So in that aspect of it, it may be a very odd, I won't even call it silly season, just an odd season, because we don't know what's going to happen and which teams can survive if they are quote unquote unchartered.
A couple of things have been solidified, Adam, in the Xfinity Series. Sammy Smith will be back in the 8 car for Junior Motorsports next year. And the Haas factory team, which really has amped up their Xfinity program, will be leaving Ford and moving to Chevy next year, which I thought was an interesting move.
Very interesting move, especially when you consider the changes that have gone on with that Haas group in the last couple of years. It was Stewart Haas Racing. They had a couple of Xfinity cars, had 4 Cup cars. We know all of that changed. Charters went in different directions. They become the Haas factory team. They have 1 Cup car. They kept one of those charters with Cole Custer, and then they start a 2-team Xfinity operation, I guess continue down the same road they were on under the SHR umbrella with Sam Mayer and Sheldon Creed, and they've announced all 3 of those drivers will be back in their current roles, with Custer running a Cup car and Mayer and Creed running in the Xfinity Series, but doing it with Chevrolet as opposed to Ford. And that was news in and of itself. But then I think the next layer of that is, and a question I have, is what happens to the future of Ford as a manufacturer in the Xfinity Series, because they were so lean anyway. And the foundation of Ford in that series was, in fact, Haas Factory. And they had a nice alliance and were really helping carry the ball for AM Racing and Harrison Burton, who's in the playoffs, and the Sieg family and Ryan Sieg, who nearly won races and nearly made the playoffs. Now, where do they stand? And what do they do from a manufacturer perspective going forward? And who does Haas Factory team align with? I know there was talk about Hendrick, and is that just an engine thing? Or is there more to that as Hendrick maybe grows their Xfinity program? We've seen that 17 car on a regular basis in 2025. So a lot of questions being asked after Haas Factory team announced they were going to Chevrolet. And where do they end up alliance-wise? And then what happens to Ford as a manufacturer in the series?
Yeah, and your thoughts on Sammy Smith sticking around for another year, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, look, good for him, right? Where else do you want to be other than the best team in the Xfinity Series? You know, if you're not getting the call to move up to the Cup Series, that's the best spot to be. He has a few wins, but doesn't make a ton of noise, right? I know there was a lot of potential. There's a lot of people that think big thoughts and big talent with Sammy Smith, but he's got to show a little more, especially on a team that's doing a lot of winning. I'd like to see a few more checkered flags from him, but these things take time. And where else would you rather be if you're not going to be in a Cup car? You want to be in the best situation possible, and that's on the best team in the Xfinity Series.
All right, can any of the 4 Cup drivers below the cut line get above it by the end of the race at Bristol? We'll find out what these guys think when we come back.
Listen up, fellow timeshare owners. If you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-890-5957. 800-890-5957. 800-890-5957. That's 800-890-5957.
Mark Garrow's your host for Garage Pass here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
It's Bristol.
Allgaier immediately goes to the outside. Down on the bottom is Larson. Side by side for second is Connor Zilisch. Allgaier caught on the outside trying to fight back. A big wiggle out of Justin Allgaier again, but he's able to hold on to third.
Sam Mayer starts to go low, then he goes high to block Kyle Larson. That hurts Larson, but could introduce Ryan Sieg.
It's the Food City 300. Friday night, September 12th at 7 Eastern on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
In Iraq, our truck hit a roadside bomb. I had about 16 surgeries on my hand so that I could regain function. And when I came home, I needed a new roof due to a storm. And I was about to lose homeowners insurance as well. I applied for Operation Homefront Critical Financial Assistance Program. And it's good to know that when we come home, there are people who are there that care about us. Operation Homefront, they've really been a blessing.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Welcome to Adam Alexander from the CW and also Alan Cavanna from PRN and TNT. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. All right, the 4 guys below the cut line going to the round of 16 finale, Adam. Austin Dillon, minus 11. Shane Van Gisbergen, minus 15. Alex Bowman, minus 35. And Josh Berry, minus 45. Austin Cindric's plus 11. Ross Chastain's plus 19. Logano's plus 21. Chase Elliott's plus 28. Do you see any of those guys moving above or below the line?
There could be some changing to me right there at 12th and 13th. I feel like those are the 2 positions that actually could exchange on track with no issues. You know, if Austin Dillon goes out, has a great qualifying run, gets 3 or 4 stage points, stage 1, stage 2, gets it into single digits, and now you're just talking about being able to finish, 7, 8 spots in front of a guy and earn your way to the next round. Beyond that, I feel like you're going to need to either help somebody get above the cut line or you're going to need some help to get there. Shane Van Gisbergen at 15, while 15 is not much different than 11, you have to hop an additional guy, which I think is challenging, and we all know this is not his thing. I look at Bowman and Berry. I feel like, they're definitely in must-win situations, and I just don't see those teams performing at a level where you feel like they can go out and walk off at Bristol. So I feel like it's status quo. I don't think there will be any change. If I had to bet on it, that's what I would say. But to me, the best opportunity, unless we have something crazy happen for those guys above the cut line, the best opportunity is between the Austins in 12th and 13th going to the weekend.
What are you seeing, Alan?
I'm banking on something crazy happening. It just seems like we see it at Bristol. Heartbreak in the playoffs. We've seen it happened to Kyle Busch when he was still with Gibbs, Joey Logano. There's too much going on, the potential for one of those 12. And, after you get out of that top 4, an early wreck could really cost somebody. And we see it happen at Bristol. So maybe I'm just banking at chaos. I don't want it for anybody, but I think something happens to a contender early in the race, and that sends him out, and Austin Dillon makes it in. Josh Berry, great at short tracks, great at tires. We don't know what this weird tire situation. If it does come to conserving tires, I think Josh Berry can do that enough to win. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think Alex Bowman will win. I don't think SVG will win. And I don't think Austin Dillon will win, but I believe something may happen to that, say, 5th through 12th group, something catastrophic early, and then it'll be drama, them just waiting to see what happens. I think Austin Dillon can sneak his way in.
I look at that, though, and we had the standings up there. You look at Tyler Reddick at plus 37. From there up, you got to have something, a total disaster to give up that kind of an advantage, I feel like. And really, even I would drop a couple of spots lower to 9th, and I feel like Chase Elliott, I think plus 27, plus 28, is in a really good spot, even if you have an issue, to be able to overcome that and manage your night to stay above. But you get down to Logano and Ross Chastain at plus 21, plus 19. Boy, the hiccup that you have and the margin for error is just not there when you know how hungry those guys are below the cut line. But it is Bristol. It is a night race, and as we know, anything can happen.
Well, that's where the whole stage thing comes into play.
Right.
Those are like the hidden points that people don't think about because, you go out, you have trouble early or accumulate no stage points, and, Austin Dillon goes out there and finishes, 3rd in the first stage and 4th in the second stage, and all of a sudden he's wiped out most of that 20-point margin.
Well, the other side of that is when do the cautions come? And does it open the door for strategy and flipping stages and maybe manipulating the race to get some points even though you weren't running up there? And all of that is on the table at Bristol. The other thing is you just can't hide at Bristol. You could have a great race car and be doing everything you need to do and just get caught up in someone else's mess or a lap car. So, there's a lot of unknowns for sure.
That's what I worry about, the chaos. Other people's issues. And we've just seen it before, Brett. I mean, I've been thankful to be there with PRN many times and coming off of that turn 2, and you just see it happen with lap cars trying to go on the outside, oil going on the track, something happening. I think Kyle Busch had an engine blow, like something weird seems to happen in Bristol. And if it happens early to a contender, your playoff run is done, and we've seen it happen before.
Alan's worked with me a long time, and so many times he's been caught up in my mess, and so he understands other people creating issues for you.
I remember one year, it was like Kyle Busch went out early. He was out, and then while he was sitting out, he got back in because somebody else had problems. Then he went out. Then he was back in, and I mean, not in the race, but in the playoffs. By the end of the night, he was out, but it was like, while he was out, he was still going back and forth across the line.
The other thing that you got to get familiar with this weekend is the DVP rules because it's a little bit different this year. And so, you might be able to go and work on your car and get it in a condition to get back in the race. And if you can do that, that could be the difference, right? Because we've had the big ones here. So a whole lot to manage this weekend for the teams. And it goes back to what we talked about off the top of the show and the problems people are having and what level of preparation do you have in place in anticipation of all the things that could happen on Saturday night.
Well, and it's funny, as much of the air as we used in the month before the playoffs started about Shane Van Gisbergen, and, if he gets through this round, then you got the Roval in the next round. Now you're looking at him having to make up 15 points because, think about he started the playoffs at 22 points. And now all of a sudden that 22 points got wiped out pretty quick. Now all of a sudden Allen, he's got a huge hill to climb.
Yeah, and you just don't see it happen. The skill set, the experience, just not there. The history, just not there, right? Do you expect SVG to be running in the top 10 at either of these stages, right? You just don't right now. Maybe in a year or two when he has more experience at these tracks. It just is what it is. It would be a big surprise to me to see that happen. It all starts in qualifying. Who can have a good qualifying lap? Then you got to stay up there. And SVG, it just doesn't seem like it's that car, that level of experience right now. He's a rookie. We'll see what happens next year.
Well, each week in the Pit Reporters, we give you a chance to go to GoPRN.com and vote on our poll. And this week's question is, which driver in the Cup Series do you think has the best chance of moving into the top 12? Austin Dillon, Shane Van Gisbergen, Alex Bowman, or Josh Berry? Which one do you think has the best chance of moving into the top 12? Last week, we asked you, has Chase Briscoe become the best driver at Gibbs? That was coming off that win at Darlington. And you guys might be surprised at this. 54% said yes.
Wow. That's a big number.
54% said yes. 46% said no. In other words, Denny Hamlin voted a lot.
That's right.
When we come back.
I mean, in this sense, he did beat your favorite driver, right? In the poll.
When we come back, white flag laps.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000, and car for car, truck for truck. Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 95,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure you drive away happy. It's even in their name. Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
When it comes to maintaining your engine to run at peak performance, trust ZMAX Micro Lubricant. ZMAX soaks into metal, so it's easy to add to your oil or gas to disperse carbon buildup in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. Protect your vehicle's engine to the max with ZMAX. Check us out at ZMAX.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter to find out more about our full line of products. Remember the name ZMAX for your car, big rig, small engines, firearms, and more. That's ZMAX Micro Lubricant.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
No one's paying me to say this, but you've been our lifeline. We have no internet. We have no TV. We barely have cell service. I don't know how I'm able to get to you. My Wi-Fi is not working. And I have a radio, and I finally got power on, and I have it plugged in, and I could hear you. You're the only station I can get in.
Wow. Well,
That's
I'm
why
glad
we're
we're here.
So-
Wow.
The report that we got was that a severe tornado was heading right toward us. But I just want to commend you gentlemen for the job that you're doing, for keeping us informed.
I just wanted to say thank you for being on the radio and guiding us to, where we can get help.
I just want to tell you, the first thing I heard was your voices the next morning. Oh, shoot. And it made me cry. The comfort of hearing your voices.
My respiration, perspiration, and aggravation are sky high, but you guys have been the guiding light.
Your local AM station makes a difference. We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back. Time now for our white flag laps. And first up from PRN and TNT, it's Alan Cavana.
Hey, I'm just so hopeful for a fun Saturday Bristol night race. It's considered it should be considered one of the crown jewels, and it's now also an elimination race. We have this wild card of a new tire, a softer right side tire. What will it mean? We saw what it meant a few races ago where it was a wild card for all the teams and they had to figure it out on the fly. I hope we see something like that on Saturday night where it's in the driver's hands, old school tire conservation, figuring that out, the comers and goers. I want that type of Bristol race on Saturday night with a spot to keep going in the playoffs on the line. And of course, want some aggression. I'm not on the call this year, so I'll be watching as a fan from home. I want to have the fireworks on pit road. I want to hear it on PRN. I want to see it on my TV. I want to see it all old school Bristol Saturday night. That's what I'm hopeful for. Goodyear, thanks for bringing us something new.
All right. Amen. Hear, hear. And next up from the CW, Adam Alexander.
I'm going to play off of Allen, and I'm going to go next level at Bristol. And since he's going to be at home with a full bowl of popcorn, here's what I hope he sees. Two of the best in the sport right now, two of the best at Bristol right now, going head-to-head. I said earlier, we've got Denny Hamlin doing the trash talk. Give me the other side of the rivalry. Kyle Larson. Let's lay the foundation this weekend so that when we get to the round of 12, the round of 8, and the championship 4, we got two of the best of the business right now going head-to-head. I hope it all starts Saturday night under the lights at Bristol.
All right. I like that. Well, we're getting through the end of the first round of the Cup playoffs. We're at the end of the first round for the Truck playoffs, and we're starting the Xfinity playoffs. The Cup playoffs, they're wide open. It looks like we've got shoe-ins in the Xfinity Series and in the Truck Series with Corey Heim, who has been dominant. But don't send all those chips in yet. The way this playoff setup goes, anything can happen. Stay tuned. Talk to you next week.
Join us again next week for the Pit Reporters on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.